just as a quick introduction, Steve Quirk, Chief Brokerage Officer at Robinhood. For those who have seen the many markets that they're formulating, he is the man, the myth, the legend behind all those. So, Steve, how's everything going by you? And exciting times here on Spaces.
Very exciting time. It's been a kind of an interesting day. I will tell you, I haven't really been able to see a lot of it. I'm in New York I was doing a Piper Sandler conference and some media following and some meetings. So, I just kind of like was episodically looking at the market, but yeah, plenty of movement, that's for
Well,
sure.
let's kick it off talking Tesla, because Tesla is one of there was a report that came out from Robinhood recently that tech and AI names like Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir, Amazon, and Apple are the most popular among Robinhood customers. And when those tariffs
Yep.
were first put into place, that your customers use ETFs more than average to increase market exposure. So Tesla, huge move today. It's down 14.5% in regular trading, down another 2.19% in after hours. Uh, when you get these massive days, what does that look like on the back end for y'all at Robinhood? What data are you looking at? What's interesting to you here?
Well, you rattled off probably some of the stocks that sit in our top 10 almost on a daily basis. Customers kind of go back and forth in these stocks. I will tell you, you brought up the data on what had happened as the tariffs were most of the news on the tariffs were unfolding. Retail customers kind of stepped in, like we saw it in a couple different ways. Number one, they heavy deposit months. We had the two of the biggest deposit months in our history in March and April, and they just stepped in and bought a lot of. So a lot of these names were down. There were names down 30, 40, 50% based on the tariff news, and these are some of the most popularly traded stocks at Robinhood. And we saw a pretty nice bounce as a result of that, and then they started unloading some. As a matter of fact, I think Nvidia was one of the most popularly sold in the last short period of time. So I think there's a lot of more back and forth, but people definitely have an affinity for Tesla and some of the other ones.
I do have a question for you. This is a little bit out of the traditional markets, but it's on the prediction markets. I've traded some
Yep.
of your prediction markets. You have some fun ones, right? Sports, presidential elections, items like that. When you see
hmm
day-to-day things like this happening, like with everything going on with Elon, like I just saw, Pie Market as an example, put up like 6 new markets about like how many tweets is Elon going to do today? Will things get released about Trump? I'm curious if you see Robinhood going in a similar direction there with like these unique prediction markets being listed on the platform. So where people have their trading and their investing, they also have some of these other items.
Um, it we so far we've limited it to election, a bunch of economic figures, price of gas, and some sports. I think our primary, like, think of it in the same capacity that you would think about what securities you can trade on Robinhood. There are many, many OTC securities that are caveat emptor, trade $10 a day. We're not going there. We want to make sure that whatever we provide access to is highly liquid, and that there's enough interest in it to make it interesting enough to provide. Because we have scale. We have 26 million customers that are getting access to this, so we want to make sure there's no Hotel California contracts. If you know what I mean, you can check in but you can't get out. So
Yes, yes, yes. Great points. Evan, Stock Talk, want to bring you guys into it before I ask a few more. Evan, what's on your mind here when you look at everything going on with this market as well as Robinhood?
Well, so I was seeing a lot of the headlines coming out of your conference appearance this morning. There was ones about like Robinhood customers strongly buying the dip. I believe that was around April. I thought the one around the credit card was pretty interesting and seemed to get a lot of people talking about that. So I was curious if we could talk more. Robinhood now has more than 3 million people on the wait list was the headline that was going around there. I know in general recently it was kind of talked about the rollout. I know you're the chief brokerage officer, so it's a little bit kind of on the sideways of it, but I'm curious on how that's going.
the credit card's been going really well. I mean, if we look at the feedback on a continual basis around it, and just talk to a lot of the customers who are using it, watch their behaviors, they love it. And with the credit card, and you probably heard this from Vlad and Jason, our CFO, and others, Deepak, who rolled it out. Being methodical about that and making sure that we do it in a prudent manner is pretty important from a credit card standpoint. But I would say overall, it's the enthusiasm around it is off the charts. You can't beat it. 3% on everything. It's pretty magical, and the experience is cool.
Yeah, Sam.
Hey, great to meet you, Steve. Appreciate you being on here. Probably less of a question and more of just like a comment of what I've been seeing as far as the revenues for crypto, options, and trading has really been expanding. Obviously the market wasn't too happy about last quarter, but we look at today and clearly they are happy about it. I guess you can't really disclose anything, but I guess the comment was that there has been a lot of trading with crypto near all-time highs, a lot of heightened options trading lately, especially with the stock market near all-time highs, bouncing from April lows. Kind of gets me a little bit excited for the earnings that are be coming up in a couple of months with Robinhood. Just seeing how much activity there is in the stock market, especially with the retail basically buying the dip in April, gets me a little bit excited with that. And honestly, I work in a software background, so I'm very cognizant about like software utility and flexibility and seeing things being resolved, especially customer support. It's nice to see that Robinhood. I haven't personally ran into any UI issues or anything, so that looks really good. But even on a brokerage standpoint, maybe like when things get a little bit crazy in the stock market, the application might slow down a little bit. But as far as that goes, like I haven't really seen anything bad on my side. Are there any? I would say from a brokerage standpoint, are there any improvements you're planning on releasing maybe in the upcoming few weeks? Maybe you're not on the sports betting side, but like some new features might be releasing at sports betting. Because there was one thing that I was actually looking at, like having the scores of like certain games and stuff on there. And I'm not sure if you could comment about that, but I'm just curious.
I would say, well, first of all, like I'm getting back to the beginning of your statement. Like we released some metrics this morning, our May metrics, or preview of our May metrics, and our equity trading sequentially, so month over month, was up 10% to a record. Option trading was up 5% to a record. Margin balances were $9 billion, which is a record, and the cash sweep balances were $30 billion, which is a record. So like the customers are very engaged and active. Retail investors. I've been making this argument with some media in New York. I would argue this is the second time that retail has bailed out the market in the last 5 years. During COVID, they came to the rescue with the institutions pounding all the cruise lines, hotel, airlines, everything else. And this time, they had to step in a different way. And of course, I'm not saying that they're the ones that turned the market around, but they certainly put a stop on it. Retail has now become, as you guys talk about, a much bigger part of the equation, which is awesome. And they have the conviction. These are young people who are going to have a long investing career, so they have the conviction to step in, which is pretty cool. So I think those things have me so optimistic about the future for this generation of investors. As far as what we're going to do to continue to iterate for them, on the EC front, I think the sky's the limit. There's so much there, and sports is one component of it. But I would say there's so many other ways that we can allow people to be a little more precise in their investment thesis. The election, great example. Hey, listen, the election moved a lot of sectors, a lot of individual names. If I already had a portfolio and I said, look, I don't want to pick apart my portfolio based on the election. I just want to, either create a hedge on the election or benefit from it. Gave you a nice avenue to do it. And even if you didn't do anything on the election, we had massive numbers, 800,000 accounts open, 500 million contracts traded, but we had even more people just looking at it. The market moving news happened, 2 hours before the major news networks were announcing swing states.
Yeah, really interesting pieces there. Great questions from Sam. I love that we're able to just have these direct conversations. So I appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us. Stock Talk, I'll check in with you for a second, see if you had any thoughts or anything that you wanted to go over or talk about here. If not, I do have a couple other items I wanted to touch on.
I do too.
Yeah, I did think the presentation you guys had this morning was impressive. I'm a Robinhood shareholder. I think it's a great company, and you guys have been executing well recently. I'm wondering if one thing I've heard ever since the launch of Robinhood's your guys' first professional trading tools is that there's still a lot of features that people are looking for, better watch list features, namely, at least for me especially, and other features. Do you think that there's going to be, more of a concerted effort to develop those things? And I feel like you guys have the team to do it, certainly based on those recent releases.
Well, we're already doing it. So, we kind of have this balance of delivering on things that are innovative, the prediction markets, 24/5, new asset classes, with the things that are kind of necessary, like joint accounts, tax lots, some of the things that really are important from customer standpoint. And I think, over time, you're going to watch us, and we'll do it in a relatively quick manner. We have pretty good product velocity. Fill the gaps with account types, asset classes, capabilities. We hear loud and clear. One thing we are is very connected to our customers, and many of you are our customers, in terms of what's most important to them and how quickly we can deliver that and what the prioritization of that should be.
So
Awesome,
I'm kind of
awesome.
curious.
Here.
You have another question? Okay, no. I'm kind of curious on the uptake in some of these like new areas like futures and even Robinhood Legend and strategies, the managed product. I'm just kind of curious any insights there on how people are starting to use them. If there's one kind of area of acceleration or something like that that you've been excited about in those kind of newer markets you guys have kind of moved into.
Sure, I'll start with the last one first. So strategies, it's pretty new rollout. Surpassed 75,000 accounts in just around 2 months, about $250 million in strategies, which is our advised portfolio. I call it light touch advisory. Um, on the futures and index options front, the adoption's been pretty robust. I made this point at a conference today. I think we rolled out futures when I was at TD Ameritrade in about 2010 or 11. And it took us about 4 or 5 years to get to the volumes that we're doing today in under 6 months. So they've been very well received. Now, I will tell you that this has been a very good market to roll out a product like futures, which trades around the clock. And, look, a lot of this market moving news is happening when the market traditional market is not open. So that helps. As far as index options, that's been, from our more active, engaged investors and traders, that's been the number one request for a very long time, because it's a product that they utilize when trying to get deep market exposure.
Do we have Ahmed on stage? I see him in the crowd.
I did send him an invite. Sometimes X doesn't always show when they're up, but if he wants to come up.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can get him up, but no worries. Stockdog, did you have another question there? Or Evan?
No, Evan already touched on the credit cards thing, but yeah, that was going to be my first question. But I thought that was really impressive as well.
Steve,
I think the demand for that product has been awesome. I mean, it's honestly just like flat out, and I'm not even propping you up just because you're here, but it is flat out one of the best credit card offerings on the market.
We've heard that loud and clear from a lot of people. The experience in general, and I have one. I use it all the time. It's pretty cool. The one other thing we didn't really talk about too much, but I think is very interesting, is some of the behaviors that we've seen from customers. And one of the ones that we've been highlighting is when markets get volatile, and I mean extremely volatile, like 60 VIX, which we don't see that often, and we see moves like we saw in the last month. Customers, they move away from individual names and they move toward broad-based ETFs. Thesis is they have more conviction in the idea that the quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, market will bounce than they do on an individual name. So it's almost like they're diversifying their conviction, because if something happens to an individual stock, it might not come back. But if something happens to an individual stock, and I have the SPY or QQQ, if the broad-based market rebounds, it's going to obviously rebound as well. And so, like, if you look at the notional volume of our trading, it's like 80% individual names, 20% broad-based ETFs. During this bout of, the tariff volatility, we went to like 60-40, 60% individual names, 40% ETFs. And now we're back to 80-20, which is, it's kind of fascinating. And by the way, this is not unique to Robinhood. It's kind of a market phenomenon as well. So that's just something that I think is pretty interesting from just an overall retail trading mentality standpoint.
I'm kind of curious on like what the Robinhood customers were doing over like we're in a little bit of a interesting markets over the last couple months, and I'm just curious on how they react. Like I don't know how granular the data gets on like age and what you guys see on the back end, but I'm curious like how the younger cohort of people on the platform might be acting a little bit differently to the older ones. And I'm just curious how they're going around this time. Because a lot of times you go in and ask, like, how would you react if your favorite stock or your entire portfolio was down 10-20%? And, you fill in an answer. But sometimes in markets, you actually get to find it out. So I'm
Well,
curious how they actually reacted.
yeah, you actually hit the nail on the head. Like, understand, like, it's one thing to say, here's how I would react. When I'll use the Tysonism, when I get punched in the face, it's another thing to see what happens when you get punched in the face, right? Your reaction might be different than what it would be. The one thing I would say is, like, if you look at our customers, like 80 some percent of them that were around during the meme stock and during COVID are still with us. And so, although this is very different than either of those, I would argue they have some scar tissue. Like, they understand that markets can move in an irrational manner for a period of time, and having had experience with it, I think it's really valuable, because to your point, if it's your first time, this is new to you, and it's probably a poor analogy, but like first time you watch a horror movie, you're scared out of your mind. The 14th time you watch a horror movie, you're like, all right, I got it. I know what's going to happen here. And it makes it a little easier to navigate.
I could jump back in here for a second, if that's okay. First off, by the way, for everyone that's in here, if you haven't already, give Steve a follow. Let's pump up them followers. Over 5K. He does a lot of great media appearances, shares a lot of items. You'll often see myself and Evan at the different Robinhood Gold events. I got to interview Steve at the last one as well. That was posted up to YouTube. So make sure that you're checking out some of these different items. One thing I wanted to talk about was just acquisitions, right? Closed acquisitions of trade.
Yep.
PMR, right? You've expanded into Canada. What's the future plans that you could share with us here?
I think the future plans, I'd say, is like those are both geographical acquisitions, but they're also capability based acquisitions. So, like, for example, Bitstamp, which we shared some more detail on and closed in the last couple of days, it gives us an ability to interact with institutional customers, which our crypto offering has been strictly retail, and as a result of that, it gave us capabilities. Oldest crypto exchange I think that exists, with a lot of institutional capabilities. It's already got 5,000 large institutional customers and 500,000 retail customers. It also provides us with 50 licenses all across Europe, and it's not a small feat to get those licenses, so that's really helpful for us. And as we get more clarity on regulation on what's permissible in the U.S., a lot of those capabilities we can bring over here and utilize for U.S. customers as well. Same thing on the WonderFi front, which we announced that about a month ago, probably even last couple weeks ago. That's just a Canadian entity, which gives us similar capabilities. And then on the trade PMR front, we've largely competed on the self-directed side Robinhood has, and we haven't really dipped our toe in the water from a wealth management side. But if you look at the TAM on the wealth management side, it's 3 times what it is, 2.5 at least on the self-directed side. So a lot of our customers have said, "Hey, look, I'm very confident in my ability to manage a portfolio that's this size, but once it gets to a size that's a multiple of that, I would like some help from an advised standpoint, or I'm 20 some years old and suddenly I'm a 35-year-old and I've got a couple kids and a house, and I just don't have the wherewithal to do this all on my own, so I'd like some help."
Yeah, there has been some pretty cool expansion that's moved into that area. I like a lot of the features that have continued to come out, little things that honestly you really do listen to the feedback, because there's little pieces that I've just asked for here and there that I've continued to see come into the app and the platform. Emp, do you want to jump in for a second? Talk about the active trader side of things?
Stocks kind of hit on what I was interested in. I'm very interested in Legend. I love the canvas idea there, where you kind of create your own areas on the chart. I'm wondering how the further development goes on that. I was excited to get that back in November, I think, when it launched.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the projection looking at for maybe some updates to that? Where's Legend at now, and kind of where's it going?
Well, we have a couple teams working on that continuously, and it's based on a lot of the feedback from you and others on what you want to see next. First thing we had to do is get every asset class on there, which we've done. Now you got crypto and other things on there. Then it's the capabilities, expanding on the charting capabilities, and even on widgets. Think news widgets, quote widgets, and we just have a long runway there, which is being prioritized by the feedback that we get. We love to listen to the customers, and they're very, very eager to share with us what the next most important thing they need to see on Legend is. But the pickup on it and the adoption and just the engagement and usage has been fantastic.
And that was part two of my question, was going to be, will we get to see some outside like features, API type of stuff, where maybe on a day like today, where you have news headline after news headline that's scrolling down the left side of my Legend screen?
I think we're going to do better. I think you're kind of leading me into one of the other things that is probably worth talking about, Cortex, which will, to your point, customers get hit with a lot of movement and a lot of headlines on individual equities or the market in general. It's hard for them to dig through and figure out what's really moving the market or an individual security. Like, you can go 4 sources and you're going to get 4 different answers sometimes. And so, one of the first things we're going to do with Cortex, and we're already at a pretty good place with it, is do that for you. So use AI to basically look at every single source of information. A lot of the bigger sources have their traditional feed, and then they'll have breaking feeds, which are more timely news. And it's able to basically look through both of those and determine which is the likely catalyst for something moving, and then give you more. Yeah, the deeper you want to dig, the deeper it'll go. And then the next iteration of that will be, hey, thanks for letting me know why something moved or what the opportunity is. Now, what should I do with it, right? And how can you help me decipher what would be the best way to capitalize on it, or to protect myself if need be.
Well, you've got your crystal ball out today, Steve, because that was my third question, or my third follow-up would have been on the AI. You hit exactly where I was going. So I'll no further questions from me, Gav. I'll throw it back over to you. That was fantastic, Steve.
It's
Appreciate your
like it's
time.
like reading your mind.
You did. You we were walking down the same path there.
I saw you guys put out another APY bonus today. I'm just curious, what's the like strategy as you continue to go throughout the years? I think you're driving more and more people to put their cash in here. Now there's banking, right? Other pieces together with it. Obviously, you're on the brokerage side, but when you look at the full picture, where does that continue to expand out to later this year and next year?
I think the offers have been really successful, like our match program and what we do from a retirement standpoint. And what we try to do is marry those to things that we roll out because so you have really we have done a lot in terms of enhancing the offering and providing more value and more features, more asset classes. But sometimes that's not always visible to potential customers or even existing customers of other brokerage firms. And so you have to give them a reason to take a look at you. And when they do, and they see everything that you're doing, and there's an enticing offer, it's really powerful, and it attracts a lot of customers, either new or existing customers from other brokerage firms, and it pays off. So we do those episodically, along with the launches of some of the things that we're rolling out.
Makes sense to me. I know we just have another minute or two. I see Amit trying to come in again. I think he's tried to come up a couple times. If we do get him up, Evan, just let me know.
Looks like he's up here
Hello.
We've
now.
got him. I just got him on stage. What's up, Amit?
What's up, Steve? How you
Hey,
doing?
how are you?
I'm doing very well. I just I've been busy all day, but I saw you guys were live, and I was like, no, I need to listen to Mr. Steve Quirk talk about Robinhood here. So yeah, I just want to congratulate you guys on all your success. I guess if I got time for one question, you announced today 3 million people on the credit card wait list.
Yeah.
I guess question here is, what's the broad strategy for the credit card, and do you think it could be one of the real big businesses at Robinhood?
I actually do, yes. And I kind of mentioned it earlier before you joined. Like the roll, we do have 3 million on the wait list. We've been somewhat methodical about the way we roll it out. You have to be you have to measure, behaviors and make sure that we're doing it in a manner that's, going to be beneficial for us and the customers. But I do think it has the capacity to be really, really a great catalyst for people to do more of everything, more of all their financial transactions and everything they do from a banking standpoint and investing standpoint on Robinhood, which is, as you know, because you've talked to Vlad quite a bit, that's his vision. Every financial transaction that you do should be in Robinhood. And, a lot of people don't want 4 apps when they're managing their finances. So having it all in one place and having the experience be consummate with what it is from an investing or even on the credit card side it's a win-win.
I have to say, on the credit card, I know I'm stupid, but that 1,000 point mystery box that you guys added in, I get like excited to spend money now. I
It's
will say,
interesting.
as crazy as it sounds, I have actively and consciously spent more money on that card because of that promotion. And I don't even know if it's net good for me. It's just I want to do it. So
Yeah,
there you go.
that's
It's the little
cool.
things.
Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys having me on. I gotta hop, but thank you very much for the opportunity to chat with you
Thank
guys.
you so much, Steve. Appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to more conversations together.